It's time to shut it down. Wintertime is almost officially here, and we've got to prep our yards and our houses for that cold that's about to set in. So you think you might have to empty out those irrigation lines completely before the winter hits. Well, hold on a second, because if you live in the South like me, that might not be necessary. Make sure you watch this video closely, because later on I'm going to mention a couple things that you may not have thought about whenever you're winterizing your home or anywhere around your house. So you've probably heard this advice where you've got to completely empty out those water lines before it gets cold. That's going to be best suited for colder places up north. But here in the South, you can do things a bit differently. So you remember back last Christmas when it got so cold, the lows here got below 10 degrees and the highs didn't get above freezing for days. So looking back at this day right here on Christmas Eve, that's when a lot of people's pipes bursted in their houses. It was such a mess, but our pipes here were perfectly fine. Now, if you're up north, you're going to be dealing with hard freezes for a long period of time. So it's kind of a big deal. You're going to want to clear out that irrigation system completely to avoid any damage. And if you're in a place like that, you're going to want to consider contacting a professional to do it for you. The reason being is it's important to use the correct tools and maintain the correct pressure on the pipes. It's something that you can easily mess up, so I want to make sure that you don't do that. But here in the South, it's much easier. Our ground doesn't freeze very deep because it doesn't get as cold for very long, and that's going to save us a lot of trouble. I'm going to show you these steps that I follow. First, I'm going to go over here to this main irrigation valve, and I'm going to turn that thing off. Once we've done that, then I'm going to head back to the irrigation panel, and I'm going to run through all those cycles to make sure that there's no pressure left on those pipes. If you look at these shutoff valves, you're going to see that I have two of them. A couple years back, I had to replace the shutoff valve because the handle had snapped off. It had rusted away, so I could no longer turn anything on and off. I had a company come out and install this, and they suggested that I should put this double valve setup on. This is the kind of setup that you're going to want to have whenever you have to blow out your lines to do a winterization. It makes it way easier for them to do it. Even though I didn't need it, I had them install it anyway. And I'll be honest, I didn't know any better at the time. But now I know that I only needed a single valve. So here's something that you might not think about doing. Once you shut off the valves, it's a good idea to put down some insulation into the box. I like to find an old towel or an old blanket, something like that, and you can shove it down in a plastic bag. Then you can put it down in there and make sure it's going to cover all of those exposed pipes. The only thing that's covering those pipes and keeping them from the exposed elements is that plastic lid right there. So throwing this in there is really going to help insulate that. All right, now I'm going to go over here to the irrigation panel box, and I'm going to run through each of the zones to make sure that all of that buildup, all that pressure that may be on the pipes right now, that's going to get released. You want to make sure you do that because you'd rather be safe than sorry. Your system may be like mine, where when you turn it on, it doesn't actually do anything. It seems like it doesn't spray any water. That's a good thing. It means there's hardly anything left in it, because if there was, then it would spray out. All you have to do is let it run for about a minute. If you've got an outdoor faucet and there's an inside shutoff valve, make sure you go in there, turn it off, and then go to the outside faucet and then open it up. That's going to release any of the pressure that's on that pipe. Otherwise, you're going to want to put one of these caps over the spigot. These are the ones that are going to be attached to the house. Now I'm going to be pulling this thing off the shelf, and I'm going to go over here and cover up this spigot. And for those of you who have a standalone outdoor water spigot, here's a handy little trick. You're going to want to cover them up with something. I suggest like a bucket or maybe even a trash can, but you're going to want to pack it with some insulation. And I don't have one of these around my house, but some of my family and friends do around their property. And there are multiple ways to insulate these pipes, but this method is basically free. you can get some plastic shopping bags and pack them with leaves. Then cover them up and then pack that in there in the bucket or the trash can like I suggested. But if you don't like this free option, this is what my parents have for those exposed water spigots. I've got a link for you in the description below, and you can buy that through Amazon. Before we wrap up, let's not forget about our lawns. Let's make sure that we've prepped everything for winter. That's including our yard. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna mulch up these leaves and pine straw with my mower. I'm gonna push everything to the middle, and then I'm gonna use my lawn sweeper to gather it all up. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for us today. We've gone through the essential steps to get your place ready for winter, especially for us here in the South. It's all about those small things that saves us from when the cold weather hits. It's gonna keep our yards in top shape year round. Speaking of yard maintenance, did you notice that I was using that lawn sweeper earlier? If you haven't already, check out my recent reviews of the Agri-Fab lawn sweeper. That's the one that I've got. If you're looking for a hassle-free way to clean up grass clippings, leaves, pine straw, or even small sticks, this lawn sweeper is the thing that you need. It's made a huge difference in my yard for maintenance. Plus, in that video, I've got a couple tips to make sure that you get the most out of that lawn sweeper. And thank you so much for joining me in this video. If you found it helpful, make sure you give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Until then, take care.